Russell, Jewel Lloyd, and Jordan Canada will get things rolling for the Storm. This line of 3-3 for Seattle this season. And the jump ball won by the visiting Minnesota Lynx. Glad to have you with us here on this Sunday afternoon. Just 7 games remaining in the season for the Seattle Storm, and immediately a turnover. And Jordan Canada missed the last game with a shoulder injury. Pushes it inside to Mercedes Russell, who can't finish. Sims coming away with it. And she loses it. Natasha Howard comes away with it, and she's going to go coast to coast for the Storm's first bucket, but she misses it. Looks like she took off a little bit too early. Nobody around her. Well, it looked like the first 2 of the game for the Storm. Instead, Minnesota catching a break. Storm getting the stop. Alicia Clark hands it off to Jordan Canada. Lloyd back in the starting lineup, leaves their jump shot short. She missed over 3 weeks of the season with a high ankle sprain, has been trying to work her way back in, has Jewel Lloyd. Had 15 points at Connecticut, her season high since that injury. Mercedes Russell coming away with the carom. Here's Howard down low. Little shake, turn around Jay. A difficult shot made easy. The easy shot made difficult to get things started, but Howard will take the bucket.
Continuing to make things difficult for her former team. Had a career high 33 points against them last time out.
Might be the best trade in WNBA history. Natasha Howard for a second-round draft choice. And right now, I would say that she's one of the top 3 candidates for MVP here in the 2019 season. The Storm coming away with a defensive stop and the turnover. Cheryl Reeve.
None too pleased after that
love
possession.
The body language of Cheryl Reeve. One of the best that has ever sat in the head coaching spot in the WNBA. Leads every coach with a win percentage of 68% in her 10 seasons with the Lynx. Of course, 4 world championships. Also 2 as an assistant with Bill Lambier in Detroit. And an assistant for Dan Hughes way back in the day. Explosive drive for the hoop, finished by Jewel Lloyd.
Nice to see Jewel get going early. She's coming off her best performance since that injury that kept her out for an extended period, and really want to see her maintain that as she moves back into the starting 5.
She came back in the lineup, struggled a bit, wasn't 100%, so Dan Hughes said, I'm just going to let her play through it, take her off the bench, let her get some minutes, and back in the lineup here today after the 15 points in Connecticut. Another turnover, the steal, and Alicia Clark heads, looks like she's going to try to take it herself. Can't finish, but Howard is there with the board and the bucket.
That's 4 turnovers already forced by the Storm in the first 3+ minutes here, and turning it into offense that time.
Augustus off the back rim. Jewel Lloyd trying to push pace. The key against this Lynx team, gets in and draws the foul on Dantas. And Seattle playing with good energy here to get things started.
Yeah, that's something Dan Hughes mentioned when we talked to him before the game, is something he really thought was key to the 2 victories that the Storm got over Minnesota the last 2 times they matched up. And, you know, especially if you're able to force turnovers, that's going to allow you to control the pace to get out of the transition.
Dan Hughes, good shot at him. Winner of the WNBA championship a year ago. And Minnesota needs a timeout. Well, this season, every free throw a Storm player makes, Alaska Airlines donates 2,000 miles to the Alaska Airlines for Youth Fund. Currently, the Storm are at 338 free throws made, bringing the total miles donated to 676,000. You can check out storm.wnba.com/free throws for the future for more information. You want to talk about doing her job at the free throw line. Jewel Lloyd this season, 54 of 57. A 94.7% free throw percentage. So over 108,000 miles just by herself. Leaves that one short, of course. That's the way it works, right? But just her 4th missed free throw of the season for Jewel Lloyd. So a 7-0 advantage for Seattle. And Natasha Howard ripping it away. Gets it over to Jewel Lloyd, 3-on-2. And with that steal, Natasha Howard now the all-time single-season leader in steals in Storm franchise history. Impressive stuff.
I mean, it's really fascinating because it seemed all season that Jordan Canada, even though that she missed some time earlier in the year, was going to get that record. But Natasha has surged lately ahead of her. They're 1-2 in the WNBA in steals, and pretty soon will be 1-2 in the Storm single-season record book.
62 steals on the season for Natasha Howard. Breaks the record of Sue Bird and Sonia Henney, a former Stanford point guard that was with the team on the original team. Here's Simone Augustus, the baseline jumper, usually pure for the veteran. Rims out and Seattle secures the rebound. Alicia Clark pulling up. Mid-range jumper is good. And Seattle continues to pour it on. Now 9-0. Trying to get it down low to the cutting Augustus. Instead, it's off the rim. Alicia Clark either gets a steal or a rebound. I'm not sure which after it hits the rim.
Officially, it's a turnover. The Storm will take it either way.
And Jordan Canada takes it herself for the mid-range jumper. Good to see her healthy after missing the last game with a shoulder injury and was just 3 of 16 her couple of games before that. Here's Collier, smooth underneath for the first Lynx bucket of the night. Alicia Clark into lane, kicks it out to Jewel Lloyd. Meter set, and that one is true.
And kind of the rhythm hop into that catch and shoot three. You know Jewel has a much better chance of knocking it down when she gets that hop.
It's like a defensive 3-second in the key violation by Seattle.
A quick call there, given that it didn't seem like the ball had been across half court for more than 3 seconds, but definitely some extra defensive attention on Sylvia Fowles when she got deep position there. Nice job by her in the transition from defense to offense, planting herself under the basket. That's interesting. How many teams have a center shoot their technical free throws?
I was just saying the same thing, and it's interesting because Sylvia Fowles, a 71% free throw shooter. But I guess when the defense is designed to stop you and you have 2-3 bodies surrounding you underneath, maybe it's a little sugar for your post player. All right, if the illegal defense is because you're on the floor, you get to shoot it. She's down low again, checked by Mercedes Russell. Battle on the block. Cross pass underneath the lane, and there's Fowles. So tough at 6'6".
Yeah, that's what happens when she is able to get the ball that deep.
Love watching Sylvia Fowles play. The former finals MVP. It's a dominant force for the Lynx. Lloyd out to Clark. Shot clock winding down. And the top shot for Clark from the baseline going in.
Yeah, I missed this. When Alicia missed a shot earlier, it was her first miss on a Sunday since July. She had been perfect the last 2 weeks. She had 13 for 13 shooting the last 2 Sundays.
That's a great note, Kevin. Kevin Feltman from ESPN.com. That's why you're on this broadcast. My man, good stuff. And Alicia Clark. Good clock awareness, getting that one out of her hands. And what a start by Seattle. 16-5 early lead on their home floor. Collier underneath. Canada trying to contain her, but all it does is send Collier to the free throw line for a 3-point opportunity.
That's one of the things that makes Collier so tough. You get her inside against a guard. I mean, that's a bucket every time. Minnesota's got a big lineup out here. They originally brought in Stephanie Talbot as kind of the 4, Collier is the 4. Those is the front court combo, but now Demira Stantz is back for Simone Augustus, and you have essentially 4 forwards on the court along with Danielle Robinson now at point guard.
The first foul of the game for Jordan Canada. Collier completes a 3-point play. She's got 5 points here in the first quarter. Canada nearly loses it. Instead it's to Howard. Did she get it off in time? It hits the rim, and tracking that long rebound down. The officials blowing the whistle. Looked like one was maybe going to call a turnover, but as it stands, it'll be a foul. That went on Collier, her first. The Storm today on Breast Health Awareness Night, wearing the black jerseys with the pink trim. Clark getting it stripped away, but lands on the baseline. So 2 seconds on the shot clock, and the Storm will have a chance to at least get a look at the rim rather than initially just turning the ball over.
I mean, you at least give yourself a chance at an offensive rebound that way, like we just saw with Howard.
Howard, 1-2 mini dribbles before letting that one go.
First turnover for the Storm after forcing 6 on the other end already.
And that turnover area is so critical for both teams. They're number 1 and number 2 in the league in forced turnovers. And another one forced by Seattle. That one off the fingertips of Collier for the overdraft violation. The 7th turnover in the first 7 minutes and 16 seconds. And Sammy Whitcomb, the UW product, back on the floor. On the floor for the first time for the Seattle Storm here today, coming off the bench. Has spent time in the starting lineup. And the high pick set for Sammy Whitcomb to get some room, too much contact, and that's an offensive foul on Natasha Howard. That is her first.
Howard sort of rolling into that screen and then also the contact with the shoulder. So I would say the 2 turnovers so far for the Storm more surprising in some ways than the 7 from Minnesota. These teams are not only 1 and 2 in turning the ball over, they're also in forcing turnovers. They're also at the bottom of the league 1 and 2 in turning it over.
So you're saying we could see a lot of turnovers tonight? That's the math that I do on that, Kevin. Down low and fouls. So tough when she gets the ball in the paint. Pretty much unstoppable. And that is Minnesota's game. Get the ball inside. 36.5 points per game in the paint. Crystal Langhorne on the floor for the Storm. Her 3 ball. Too much on that one. Bouncing out of bounds. And last touch by Natasha Howard.
And certainly everything Minnesota has gotten so far tonight has been in pain. It's been the duckings by Dantas against Collier against smaller defenders, and then fouls getting deep post position.
Seattle with another stop. Minnesota on an 8-2 run. Seattle with the ball in their hands, but not anymore as Robinson gets the theft over to Collier underneath the Dantes. And then knocked out of bounds by the Storm.
Nice transition defense that time to the Storm. You avoid kind of compounding the turnover by also giving up a bucket at the other end.
Talbot from the baseline. Sammy Whitcomb asking for a little bit of help with all the screens and the action on that baseline of the bounce play. Nobody there to put a hand in her face. And now a 10-2 run for Minnesota. Sammy Whitcomb off the screen. Can't get that one to roll in from the top of the key. Robinson sticking her arm out. Trying to clear some space, but can't hit the runner. Canada right in the face of the defender, Robinson. Those two mirror each other in a lot of ways. So quick, love to get in the lane. They're both pretty feisty defensively.
That's for sure.
Underneath for fouls. Under the bucket this time. The Storm defense getting a hand on it. Robinson with a 3-ball attempt. Too much on it in Canada. Out to Howard. And that one on the arch. And it's nothing but net.
A great sequence of both ends of the floor by Natasha Howard. She comes up with the block and a defensive rebound at one end, then knocks down the 3 at the other. Not a lot of players in the league can do that.
Well, Natasha Howard has been a revelation in Seattle. Before she got to the Storm franchise, averaged just over 5 points per game. Minnesota traded her, as we mentioned earlier, for a second-round draft pick. They just did not have room on their roster, and Seattle was ecstatic about that move, but I don't even know if anybody in Seattle expected Natasha Howard to be one of the one of the best players in the WNBA just 2 short seasons later, and helping Seattle win that championship a year ago. But for Howard, she's going to have to take a seat on the bench with her second foul here in the first quarter. 10 seconds to go. Shavonte Zealous, ball in her hands. Trying to cap off a good quarter for the Storm in period 1. Collier with the ball. Not enough time to get a shot off, though. And Seattle will take a 7-point lead after the first 10 minutes of play. A good start for the Seattle Storm team in a matchup with all kinds of playoff implications. We'll be back for quarter number 2 coming up next. Games, the BECU Early Saver Zone offers discounted general admission tickets starting at just $12 for kids and $17 for adults so that fans can enjoy the game and save some money on tickets. Go to www.stormbasketball.com/Early Saver for more information or to purchase your tickets. Some celebrities in the house today. Carmen Vest on the left, the police chief of Seattle, Mayor Jenny Durkin. And then we know that one, the WNBA MVP, Breanna Stewart, doing great in her rehab from her Achilles injury. Suffered in the offseason after winning the WNBA championship. WNBA MVP, and sitting to her right, one of the best humans in our business, Holly Rowe, who is a cancer survivor herself and is just an amazing woman for everything she does, not just for women's basketball, but for sport.
Great to see so much pink in the building tonight.
You're rocking your pink tie, and a lot of people here as the Seattle Storm. There's Holly Rowe, looking adorable as ever with her pink sweater on.
Always become kind of a fixture here in Seattle.
She came out randomly this year just to watch the University of Washington softball team. Just made her way out as she works on the World Series for college softball, of course, in college football.
She keeps busy.
Yes, she does. Does a great job. And it's always awesome to see Breanna Stewart in the house. Sure wish she was able to be out there with her teammates. She was named the best player in the world last year. WNBA MVP, Finals MVP. Having to take the year off and recuperate from that significant Achilles injury. So the Storm will start the second quarter with 5 bench players on the floor. Zealous getting in the lane, draws contact. Might have hit her head on the floor.
She got some cushioning there, though, so a nice hard take there by Zealous coming out of the quarter break.
Here, Grimison, the second foul on Dantas. Did she get hit well in the air or on the ground? Tough to see there. Stag Bentley says, that wasn't on me, nope. On Dantas. Shavonte Zealous, the veteran, knocking in the first free throw, the 10-year veteran out of Pitt. Over 10 seasons has averaged over 9 points per game, almost 3 boards and 2 assists, and she's played in the playoffs in 9 different seasons. So she knows what it takes to get a team into the postseason and how the intensity just gets higher and higher and higher. Now with just 7 games left in the regular season for the Storm. Here's Sims, the lefty down low to Collier. Beautiful execution.
Yeah, that's textbook pick and roll right there, side pick and roll.
Zealous to Mosqueda Lewis. And that one is pure for the long-range shooter. That's, your personnel. You cannot leave Mosqueda Lewis free from 3. I don't care what defensive set you're in.
Absolutely. I mean, it seemed like maybe some confusion there using her as a screener. That's one of the nice things about using a perimeter player as a screener, a little bit unusual.
Now, Mosqueda Lewis is a really good screener. Very strong for a guard, and she'll free you up, and what that does is give her a little bit of room right there to knock it down. First foul on the other end on Courtney Paris. Zealous all over Odyssey Sims. Don't let her catch the ball, but McBinley instead pulls the jumper. Zealous with the three-point attempt off the front rim. And Collier pulling down the rebound, the outstanding rookie out of UConn. Now she gets it down low with an advantage over Sammy Wickham, but can't get the turnaround jumper to go. McBinley with some good energy off the bench, trying for another bucket. Can't come away with that one, and Crystal Langhorne clears, and that is Crystal Langhorne's 1,000th rebound in a Storm jersey. Just the fourth player in the history of this franchise to secure 1,000 rebounds as a member of the Storm. So congratulations going out to the 12-year veteran.
Langhorne's starting to really kind of rack up the career stats in Storm uniform. I mean, you don't think of her alongside some of the players who are like fixtures in Storm history, but she's been here now, seventh season here. Sixth season? Sixth.
Well, she was a two-time All-Star out of Maryland, drafted by Washington, and has been such a valuable member of the Storm. This one, no good from Odyssey Sims, the lefty point guard out of Baylor. Here's a shot at Crystal Langhorne. 32 years old and just still doing whatever it takes to be a valuable member. Came off the bench last year, started the season as a starter and had a rib injury. The only time in her career that she's missed time, 7 games. A 12-year veteran in the entire career she's played has only missed 7 games. But after that rib injury came last season off the bench behind Natasha Howard and didn't complain, did her job, and won herself a title.
Yeah, and then, we talked about this earlier, Mercedes Russell moving into the starting lineup earlier this year to match up against Sylvia Fowles, and Lang has continued to be effective off the bench.
Danielle Robinson, no good with a jumper, and another rebound for Langhorne. Pretty feed up ahead. Russell can't quite come down with it in rhythm, and then nearly stripped away by the Lynx double team. Sammy Wickham had a career-high 8 assists at Minnesota. To go along with 5 made threes, a significant impact in that win versus Minnesota back in July. Timeout on the floor. Seattle still with an 8-point advantage. Join us next Sunday, August 25th at 4 o'clock for Storm Fit Night, presented by Kaiser Permanente, to watch your Storm take on the Indiana Fever right here on Carter Subaru Court at Alaska Airlines Arena in Seattle. Lots of celebrities out here for this Breast Health Awareness Night. Casey Kirihara, social media influencer. And that is some killer hair, Casey. I think she's a Seahawks fan, too. What do you think? And then Ian Clark, the New Orleans Pelicans player, out here to watch the Seattle Storm. They've jumped out to an 8-point lead. They already have faced this Minnesota team 3 times. Seattle with a 2-1 record. And underneath, foul away from the ball. Looks like Odyssey Sims on the deck. Selena Mosqueda-Lewis walking away, shaking her head.
Yeah, we talked about her screening, but a little too aggressive on the screen that time.
Yeah, that's her 2 turnovers now on Selena Mosqueda-Lewis on that end with the 2 fouls. And you can see Odyssey Sims bleeding from her mouth. And they're going to have her go try to take care of that. Take a drink of water. The All-Star Odyssey Sims for the first time out of Baylor in her 6th season, was the 2nd overall pick back in 2014, and has actually played in 3 cities. Was drafted by Tulsa. The franchise moving to Dallas.
Let's hear it for Storm defense.
And in her first year with Minnesota. Of course, don't forget about LA. Odyssey Sims here, ball in her hand. Underneath, fouls, double team. Good ball movement by Minnesota. Robinson getting in the lane, but she can't finish. And some contact underneath. I'm not sure if it'll go on Yes, it looked like fighting for position. The crowd doesn't like it, but Mercedes Russell not in position. And they got Russell with her second personal.
Yeah, you worry about foul trouble defending Sylvia Fowles. So tough to get one up there, but she was kind of out of position after the switch.
Fowles working so hard down low, spins around. Oh, that is just so smooth. She is 6'6" and moves like a guard underneath. Three-time gold medalist for USA. And here's Mosqueda Lewis, her second three ball of the game. Nothing but net.
The Storm staying hot from downtown against the Lynx. 4 of 8 again tonight, 50%.
Big screen by Robinson against Zealous. And then back to Robinson, down low to Fowles. Splits the double team for another bucket. Fowles now with 9 points.
Yeah, I think we know Minnesota's game plan.
And they lead the league in points in the paint, 36.5. Here's Langhorne drawing the double team out to Zealous. And the fifth three of the game going down for the Storm.
I mean, Cheryl Reeves got to be wondering what they have to do to get the Storm to miss it through.
Bentley getting space with the off arm. You hear some boos scattered in the arena, but she gets the bucket. Pulls Minnesota with an 8. Here's Wickham rolling around. Kalina Mosqueda Lewis working the glass up and in. And Mosqueda Lewis off the bench now with 8 big points.
And 13 points for the Storm combined off the bench. That's terrific contribution.
Double team coming. And Fowles, such a pro, finding the backdoor cut from Robinson and hits her. Zealous backing down Robinson. Over the top of the defense to Wickham. Down low to Russell. Beautiful feed from Whitcomb down to the Storm center. Good back and forth action here. Simone Augustus. So true with that mid-range game.
Yeah, that looks more like the Simone Augustus we've known for well over a decade in the WNBA than the one we saw in this. I think her first 3 shots in the first quarter.
Crystal Langhorne wants to add on to Storm Sally from deep. The 6th made 3 by the Seattle Storm.
Cheryl Reeves wants to talk about their perimeter defense.
And this crowd coming to their feet, loving the long-range bombs by the Seattle Storm, and they lead by 11. The Storm app presented by Angel of the Winds Casino Resort is your place to go for Storm stats, rosters, and standings. You can even play an interactive player pick game that earns you points towards cool prizes like Storm autograph swag, a one-night stay, and $50 towards restaurants at the Angel of the Winds Casino Resort, and more. You can find it on the Apple App Store or Google Play Store by searching Seattle Storm. The Seattle Storm have been red hot from deep, 6 of 11, and we still have 4:14 to go here in the second quarter.
There's multiple players contributing. A hail from Kalina Mosqueda Lewis, but 5 different players knocking down threes. Crystal Langhorne again showing off that improved range this season, a career high 14 3-pointers. Coming into this year having barely been a threat from beyond the arc at all.
Yeah, Crystal Langhorne with her 14 made threes this season. In her first 11 seasons combined, she only made 8. She worked on it in the offseason, and as a veteran, was told by Dan Hughes, it's part of your game, we'd love to see you expand, and she said, all right, and got it done. Pretty amazing. The Storm has 6 made threes, Minnesota 0. An 18-0 advantage for the Storm from long range, and a traveling call on Zach Bentley inside the lane. Seattle forcing another turnover. That is their 8th, but just the first here in the second quarter. So cleaning things up in that category here in the second period of the Minnesota Lynx. Fowles push the block. Russell trying to get back inside. Stonewalled by Fowles. Excellent defense. Russell saying the ball was tipped. They're not going to give it to her. Sylvia Fowles, of course, multiple times the WNBA Defensive Player of the Year, and you saw why on that possession.
Yeah, just was really able to get Russell out of her comfort zone in the post. You get her a foot or two closer to the basket, that becomes a much easier hook shot.
For three, the first made three of the game for the Lynx.
Yeah, and just their second attempt from beyond the arc.
And that's 12 points now for the rookie, but answered immediately by the third three of the game off the bench for Kalina Mosqueda-Lewis.
Another miscommunication defensively to get her that wide open.
Collier was outside the last time, down for a three ball, trying to go inside, but denied. Down low to Howard. Back on the floor with those two fouls. Russell one-on-one down to the block. Trying to go over Fowles. They can't get that one to roll home. Backdoor cut by Sims. Losing Canada and a nice feed from Robinson. Miscommunication. Kalina Mosqueda-Lewis was getting denied by Augustus. Moved to go back door, and Russell airmailed that one into the second row of the stands. Kalina Mosqueda-Lewis coming off the bench with some valuable production. 11 points in just 8 minutes. 4 of 5 from the floor, including a perfect 3 of 3 from long range. Sims misses the runner, gets her own rebound, and then is fouled in the act.
A lot of the things the Storm have been doing well all half long, we're seeing kind of come undone a little bit here in the last minute or so. The defensive glass has been a strength for them, avoiding turnovers, and all of a sudden, seeing a little bit of slippage on that. You don't want to have that going into halftime.
Alicia Clark picking up her first personal.
One of the things the production from the bench, including Mosqueda-Lewis, allowed the Storm to do was really give nice, long, extended rest to a number of their starters. Natasha Howard was out of there, I think, about 6 minutes at the start of the second quarter. Clark just came back in.
And the Storm were so good from their bench against Connecticut in their last game. Over 30 points off the bench, but they fall 1 point short in a heartbreaking loss. Canada losing possession of the ball. And then Natasha Howard reaching out, and that's her third.
Yeah, that's a costly foul there.
And it's one of those with Natasha Howard. She is so valuable on both ends of the floor. And just reaching in to try to grab that ball after Jordan Canada loses the grip.
In a game like this, where you know you're going to need some fouls inside defensively against Sylvia Fowles, you hate to give one up out there.
So Natasha Howard, who's the MVP of this team on both ends of the floor, is going to have to take a seat on the bench. This is something that you know well. Kevin Felton alongside Elise Woodward, the Storm, plus minus with her on the floor. That's unbelievable.
I mean, it's as big a number as you're going to see. So that's the differential in terms of their rating per 100 possessions with her on versus off. They play 35 points per 100 possessions worse. I mean, that's amazing.
So Dan Hughes will take a timeout to figure out how he can close this half as Minnesota has climbed back into this game, now down by just 5. At 1 point, Seattle led by a dozen points. Minnesota here in the second quarter has held their own.
I mean, Storm's still in good position overall, but you don't want to let this lead that you built in the first half slip away heading into the locker room.
Well, fans, you can get all the latest Storm gear at the team shop. It's available now in new items or thriving daily. Don't miss out. Go visit stormbasketball.com and you can gear up today. Dan Hughes in the huddle. A minute 38 left, and his team trying to hang on to the momentum before intermission.
I think one of the reasons you take this timeout, settle things down, try to run something good coming out of this timeout, good ATO play, get a bucket, and then quiet this Minnesota run.
Well, this game, such a big one in terms of the WNBA standings. This is 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th place. And Storm at number 6, Minnesota at number 7. And so the way the formatting works in the playoffs right now, it's Minnesota versus Seattle. And Seattle, with that half-game lead over Minnesota, would get to host. Huge.
Yeah, and then this game also determines the head-to-head tiebreaker. Storm win the season series with a victory. If not, it could go either way. It goes to a record against teams with 500 or better record.
Tua Lloyd around the screen out of the timeout. Well done. Dan Hughes off the bench, clapping his hands above the head. He loves the execution.
That's exactly what you wanted. And nice to see Tua Lloyd come off and knock down that jumper.
She was inside the arc, though, counts for just 2, and an immediate answer on the back cut from Collier. Collier now with 14 points to lead the way for Minnesota. Jewel Lloyd trying it again. Too much on this one, but the weak side board tracked down by Clark. Langhorn double teamed on the block, keeping that pivot foot alive, and then stripped away by Talbot. Jewel Lloyd in there to break it up. The transition opportunity, though. Minnesota's defense has tightened up here in the second quarter. Seattle had a 7-point advantage at the end of the first period. Took it up to 12. But now with just a 5-point advantage, and the Lynx with the ball, 38 seconds to go. Jewel Lloyd picking it clean. Averaging 1.5 steals per game. Trying to hit Russell on the roll. Mercedes saying, I never touched that ball, and the official asking for help and getting it. Officials today, Roy Golbian, Fatu Siskako Stevens, and Angelica Suffren. So Storm with 16 seconds on the shot clock will initiate her baseline out of bounds play. A 6 seconds differential in game and shot clock. Canada in the lane, taking the contact, going to the deck. Canada with that ability to get in the air, draw contact, sacrifices her body. You see, just feeling that contact and just taking it over the top of the defense. It's just the first foul on fouls. And Jordan Canada, after missing the game in Connecticut with a shoulder injury, coming back, getting checked out by the doctors. They cleared her. And they are so glad to have that production back on the floor. Almost 10 points per game. She's the 3rd leading scorer for the Seattle Storm in the 2019 season. And Alicia Clark, what a play. 10 seconds to go. Standing her ground against Odyssey Sims, knocking the ball out of bounds off Sims. And another turnover forced by Seattle. That is now number 10. 8 seconds to go. Canada getting it off the rim. And Russell there for the offensive rebound attempt. And all in one motion, she goes up, earning herself 2 trips to the free throw line.
Second team foul in the final 2 minutes.
With just 2.4 seconds left before the intermission. Mercedes Russell trying to cash in. 65% free throw shooter on the season for the 6'6" center out of Tennessee in her second year. pulls the first one home. Just working hard, going up and getting that one, using her 6'6" frame to grab it in the air. And give Alicia Clark credit, the veteran, with a turnover means 2 points for her team and momentum heading into the break. Seattle have seen their lead dwindle to 5, but now have pushed it back out. The Storm with a 9-point advantage at halftime. And their bench really doing a nice job. 7 made threes in this game. 5 coming off the bench for the Storm. Breast Health Awareness Night. Good crowd here at Alaska Airlines Arena, all the way to the top of the rafters. And it's time now to catch up with Dan Hughes, who has been corralled by Kevin Felton.
Coach, was that response after you took the timeout at the end of the half what you were looking for from your team?
Yeah, they did a great job. We drew up something that we went occasionally, executed it beautifully in that point. They've been good. Offensively, our execution's been pretty good. Now, we've had some trouble finishing defensive plays, and they got to go hand in hand.
Was it nice getting those contributions from your bench to give the starters a bit of an extended rest?
That was huge, especially with us playing the number of games we have. I thought our bench was a real key, gave us a lot of momentum, a little separation during that period.
Do you mention anything to Natasha about avoiding foul trouble in the second half?
Repeatedly. Let's just hope that we can do that in the second half.
All right, thanks, Coach. Back to you, Elise.
All right, thanks to Dan Hughes on that. Repeatedly, Natasha Howard so good and so aggressive, occasionally finds herself in foul trouble. It's been a 3-point barrage for the Storm. 7 made threes for Seattle in the first half. Just 1 for the Minnesota Lynx, made by the rookie Collier.
It is halftime at Alaska Airlines Arena. The Storm and the Lynx for the 4th time this year. Well, tonight the Storm are raising money with 100% of proceeds benefiting the Swedish Cancer Institute Patient Assistance Fund. You can bid on tonight's game-worn jerseys signed by the players, even jerseys signed by Brianna Stewart and Sue Bird. There's a Russell Wilson signed helmet and tons of other cool signed sports memorabilia. The auction closes at 5:30 p.m., so go now to biddingforgood.com/Seattle Storm/BHA19.
All right, welcome back into halftime here at Alaska Airlines Arena on Breast Health Awareness Night. And so appreciative and thankful to have Dr. Lee here with us, a surgeon at Swedish. And on this night, which is so important, why is it for Swedish that this is such a good partnership between the Seattle Storm and Swedish?
Well, for me, it feels like a natural partnership. I mean, from what I know about the Storm, they're all about girls, they're all about women, they're all about empowering them to live their light in the world and, you know, bringing women back to health. And, you know, what we know is really so often women are the glue that hold their family together, their workplace, their community, really the planet, if you will, if you ask me a lot of times.
I'm not arguing.
Yeah, exactly. So from my perspective, you know, just getting them back to health, having them be able to live that power and that light in the world, that's what you guys are doing out here on the court every day. And bringing this message that breast health is important, know what's going on with your body, support people when you understand they're going through it. It's a community.
Tonight on Breast Health Awareness Night, it's really neat. The Patient Assistance Fund, and Swedish is involved with that. And it's helping those women that you talk and empowering them when they're dealing with this and dealing with a cancer diagnosis. Tell me about the Patient Assistance Fund and what makes you the most proud of.
Yeah, it's super important. I mean, obviously healthcare is expensive. We know that. But even just everything else that surrounds a woman when she needs to have care. You know, we have women who can't make it to their treatment because they have to choose between back to school supplies or I have gas to get to my treatment. There's rent, you know, everything that surrounds all of that. And women will choose to help others even when their own health is in jeopardy. So being able to just hand them a check, $500, pay their rent, pay their utility bill, give them a gift card for a grocery store or Target or whatever it happens to be.
As a surgeon, and you've seen this, you know, it's what you do for a living and all these women that you've helped. What's the most important message on Breast Health Awareness Night that you want to deliver to the fans watching?
Yeah, I just think, you know, in these days, this is such a common problem. You're not going to meet a woman who doesn't know a woman who isn't in active treatment or has recently had treatment or is worried about her own health or someone in her family. And the thing is, just be supportive in whatever way you can bring. You don't have to do the right thing. You don't have to do the now thing. But if you listen, if you're there, if they know that you're available to them and whatever you have to offer, it brings that team to the fight. Right? And we're nothing without a team in the fight. They show that on the court every day. And from my perspective, when you can show that to the people that you love in your life, it makes a big difference.
Well, you're making a big difference with the women battling breast cancer and the men that battle breast cancer as well. And always appreciate your time here tonight. And hopefully it continues to be an amazing event tonight.
Thank you. I'm sure it will be.
You bet. That is Dr. Lee. And it's time now for an update from Lori Dunnigan, a patient with Swedish from last year, on her amazing journey and where she stands.
My name is Lori. I'm a breast cancer survivor. I'm a single mom of 2 kids, and I am cancer-free for 6 years. I brought my daughter to the game to see a strong, powerful women working together as a team, and then seeing Swedish there as well, and knowing what I went through with them. It was a very powerful experience for us as a family. They gave us each a signed shoe that they customized for each person for their cancer journey. And I have the shoe. It's on my mantle at home, and it was very powerful. I interviewed with Jordan, and she is amazing. She was so personable and friendly. She's great and such a strong player. Wow. Hey, oh my God, Rooston. How are you doing? As far as Swedish and Storm together, I mean, wow, right? Like seeing the group of women and the strength on the court and combining that with the partnership with Swedish, I think it's really powerful.
Start to the game for the Seattle Storm. They jump out to an 11-0 advantage, and now they have the lead at halftime by 9. Elise Woodward with you, and of course with Kevin Pelton filling in for Dick Fain here tonight, and the Storm jumping out to that big lead. How'd they do it?
You know, it was with forcing turnovers early in the game. We knew that would be a key. Both of these teams like to force turnovers and sometimes struggle with turning the ball over, and it was Minnesota that was a lot looser with the basketball in the early going.
And for Seattle, they got some great production off of the bench. Their leading scorer in the first half, Kalina Mosqueda-Lewis, who was deadly from 3.
Yeah, 11 points from Mosqueda-Lewis, 3 3-pointers. The Storm, we talked before the game about how hot they've been from beyond the arc in the 2 wins over Minnesota this season. More of the same in this first half, 7 of 13 from downtown.
Yeah, good production from their second unit for Minnesota, led by Nafisha Collier. 14 points for the rookie. She's been really effective.
And between her and Sylvia Fowles, it's the points in the paint. 24 of those for Minnesota. They rely on that, and the Storm is going to have to find a way to cut into that a little bit in the second half to hold on for this victory.
Yeah, big key there. 7 made threes for Seattle and just 1 for Minnesota. So something that Minnesota is going to definitely have to work on in the second half. Right now, Seattle in control, a 9-point lead at the half. Again, as we get you ready for the second half of action, Seattle in control at halftime with a 9-point lead. Kalina Mosqueda-Lewis leading the way with 11 points in the first half. Natasha Howard leading things out of the starters, 7 points, but saddled with 3 fouls as well.
Yeah, it's going to be important for her in the second half to try to avoid picking up that 4th foul early in the third quarter, be able to stay out on the court. As we talked about in the first half, Storm so much better with her out there.
7 made threes for the Storm, 3 of them by Kalina Mosqueda-Lewis. She was a perfect 3 for 3, something that you bet Cheryl Reeves and the Minnesota Lynx want to talk about.
Because those were open looks. Those were not the looks that you want to give a shooter of Kalina Mosqueda-Lewis's caliber.
Yeah, it was a quick screen on top, and somehow it was Kalina Mosqueda-Lewis who was left wide open from the three-point line. But to be fair, it wasn't just Kalina Mosqueda-Lewis. Shavonte Zellis had one, Crystal Langhorne had one, Jewel Lloyd had one, and Natasha Howard had one.
You got 5 different players, even though you didn't get one from Sammy Whitcomb, the leading three-point shooter this season.
Sammy Whitcomb had 5 made threes, a season high at Minnesota earlier this season in the Storm win. Storm 2-1 versus Minnesota, and immediately from Jewel Lloyd down to Mercedes Russell for an easy bucket.
You saw fouls coming out a little bit more than I think she likes to do on the pick and roll there, and that's what freed Russell for that roll to the basket.
So Seattle now has their lead ballooned out to 11. Their largest lead of the game in the first half was 12. Trying to find fouls underneath, immediately double teamed out to Augustus. She can't knock the jumper down, and Seattle's defense holds. Jordan Canada on the bounce, floats one up, tipped around, but secured by Sims. One-on-one with Jewel Lloyd, crossing over in the lane with the right hand. Pretty play in the open court by Sims.
We haven't seen much of Minnesota getting out in transition. They did not have any fast break points in the first half. Not sure if that'll technically qualify, but it certainly was early offense for them.
Jewel Lloyd putting it on the ground, try to reverse, can't get it. Howard there for the O board, and it rolls in. Didn't want to go down initially, tough angle, couldn't use the backboard. Collier trying to post up against Clark. She tips it away. Canada with it in the open court. Back to Clark from three. Can't nail that one, but Canada secures the O board. Right through the hands of Collier. Into the hands of Russell, and she knows what to do with that one. She hits it. Cheryl Reeves has seen it out. She says timeout. Just 2 minutes and 3 seconds here in the third quarter of the lap, and she says we need to talk about it as the Storm lead by 13. Halftime was presented by Symetra, the official life insurance partner of the Seattle Storm. It was brought to you in part by Swedish, the official medical care team of the Seattle Storm. Health for good. And Swedish Cancer Institute is the presenting sponsor of Breath Health Awareness Night. Supported by Carter Subaru, planting a forest one test drive at a time in Shoreline, Ballard, and at cartersubaru.com. And the Seattle Storm with their biggest lead of the game, 54-41, is a 13-point advantage. And right out of intermission, Dan Hughes had the starters ready to go.
So you look back at the end of that first half, where it looked like the lead might be slipping away from the Storm. They finished the half strong and now come out in the break the same way.
Just lost her dribble, but able to get it to Sims. She pushes off. Both players end up on the deck, but Sims will be the one that ends up with the foul, and that is her second.
Nice defense there by Jewel Lloyd, just being up in her face and forcing Sims to create that contact.
Minnesota now with 12 turnovers after that one. Jewel Lloyd into the lane, kicks it out to Canada. Howard putting, what a beautiful play between Canada and Natasha.
That's pretty basketball there from the Storm. 15th assist tonight on 21 made field goals.
Right back down the lane was Robinson. She can't get it to go, and now Lloyd looks at a 1-on-3 situation. And then poked away by Robinson, coming away with a steal. It is the 9th turnover by Seattle. And Sims cashes in the baseline. Jimmy with the left hand on the other end.
Everybody clap your hands.
5 on the shot clock. Canada trying to get in the lane. She's going to have to force something up. It does hit the rim, but not just there to snatch the rebound. And then streaky down the floor is Sims. Seattle getting beat on defense on one of the rare occasions.
You see a very different look from this Lynx team when they've got Robinson and Sims out there together in the backcourt. That was their starting lineup most of the year before Simone Augustus came back. A lot more quickness.
Natasha Howard missing everything. but the lucky bounce right to Jordan Canada at the three-point line. Three on the shot clock. Canada again, ball in her hands, and this time she connects.
It's really important for Canada to be able to make that kind of pull-up jumper because of the fact that she's not really comfortable with the catch-and-shoot three. We've seen that the last couple possessions that she's gotten those looks coming as the shot clock is counting down.
And Canada coming away with a steal, and she's going to go all the way herself. Finishing that one. And Canada now in double figures. She's got 10. The 5th overall pick in the draft last year has stepped in for Sue Bird. It's making a difference in the game tonight. Sims, tough baseline jumper, quiets the crowd. Natasha hitting Russell underneath, a lot of contact. No call, but the ball landing on the baseline, so the Storm will have it with 13 on the shot clock. Here's Canada, number 2 in the WNBA in steals.
And Storm again turning defense into offense. They've got 16 points off of Minnesota's 13 turnovers so far.
Odyssey Sims has been red hot. 8 points for the Lynx. All 8 of their total points coming at the hand of the lefty. And here's Canada right down the lane for 2. Canada with 12 points. What a bounce back game for her. Did not play at Connecticut with a shoulder injury. Oh, Sims, when you're hot, you're hot. Rated it off the backboard from deep.
And no acknowledgement of that whatsoever from Odyssey. She's going back down the court. But to make it from that angle, you can't have intended it. You can't have called it.
She's all serious, though. Acted like she meant to take that one off glass. Lloyd, a finger roll, a little bit too much on it. Talbot with the miss. Getting it down to Collier, the rookie. Talbot, a bit of a rush on that three-point look.
She hasn't really been much of a factor today. She's somebody who's been giving the Lynx great production off the bench lately.
Double team to Natasha Howard. Talbot trying to strip it, can't come away with the ball. Canada out to Alicia Clark. Too much on that one. Russell down with the offensive rebound. Taking a page out of Cheryl Reeves' book.
Yeah,
positioning yourself down low for the O-board.
Yeah, this is something we were talking about with Dan Hughes before the game about one of the things he likes about the Minnesota offense under Cheryl Reeves, his former assistant coach when he was in Cleveland. And he mentioned that her offense puts players in position to get on the offensive glass even when they miss, and that's exactly what happened there. Russell trying to be boxed out by a much smaller player, a Minnesota guard. That's not going to work out very often against someone with Russell's size.
Cheryl Reeves, the assistant for Dan in Cleveland.
Miss the Rockers.
Me too. And he said that it's the only assistant coach that he has ever asked to do every single scout. She was a Rhodes Scholar candidate at LaSalle, where she played as a player, and brilliant basketball mind for Cheryl Reeves. And as it stands now, the head coach of the 4-time Minnesota Lynx, the WNBA champs, in her 10 years with the franchise, are looking at a 14-point deficit. And that is the 4th foul on Natasha Howard. Exactly what the Lynx were hoping to see.
Now, the good news here, she lasted 6 minutes, 20 seconds into the third quarter. It's a little earlier than you normally get her out for a rest, but this way you can probably rest her the remainder of the third quarter, bring her back in and start the fourth.
Well, mark it down on your scorebook as you follow along at home. A 14-point Seattle lead, 3:38 to go in the third when Natasha Howard had to sit down. And immediately the rainbow three by Odyssey Sims continues to just tear up Seattle here in the third.
She's got 14 in the quarter.
And that is now 20 for the game. 14 in 6.5 minutes of action for Sims.
And yet they really haven't made a dent in the league.
Here's Langhorn with the answer. Her 15th made three of the season, and she continues to stack on her career high in that category.
And that's just a great example of what a weapon that is, because you're not going to want to have your 5 defending Crystal Langhorne that far away from the basket. That's going to disrupt everything you're trying to do defensively. To have her be a threat out there, such a bonus for the Storm. And she's getting great looks because of it. That's the other aspect of it.
And Jordan Canada coming off that pick. She has been red hot. Canada with 12. The double team goes to her, leaving Langhorne, and you see the results in 11 minutes. Langhorne with 2 made threes. Sims, the crafty lefty move in the paint. And now 16 points for Sims in the third quarter. The only Lynx player to score in the third frame. A bullet pass underneath the Russell, too hot to handle. And the turnover in the hands of Sims. What is she going to do next? Pull-up jumper. Oh, my goodness. She is putting on a show, folks. 9 of 11 from the field. She's got 24.
The Storm wanted to take time out there, but Canada was unable to secure the ball in the front court to call it, and it's a turnover. Minnesota comes the other way.
But it's a 10-point lead for Seattle, despite Odyssey Sims being as hot as you can possibly be. Robinson, the first bucket of the second half for a player not named Sims. And now Dan Hughes will ask for the timeout, and he is hot. Asking why he couldn't get the timeout when he was calling it on the last possession. And a bucket scored by the Lynx, and they pull to within 8. Odyssey Sims absolutely on fire. She had 6 points at halftime. She has 18 in the third quarter alone.
Okay, so she's 4 away from the WNBA record for points in a quarter. That's 22 by Diana Taurasi in 2006. There's 5 players who have scored 20 in a quarter, including Maya Moore, formerly of these Lynx, playing for these Lynx, obviously. So, she's got a chance to join that group with one more basket here. And we've seen her do it a variety of different ways.
She's done it from the inside, outside, finger roll, finishing in the crossover with the right hand. She has been stellar. Former second overall pick in the draft out of Baylor, winning the national championship in her time there.
And yet, this is a credit to the Storm, the depth of contributions that they've gotten as opposed to Minnesota relying almost entirely on Odyssey Sims. They've only cut 1 point out of the lead, the 9-point lead the Storm took to halftime.
Tickets down transit to Storm games at Alaska Airlines Arena is like an easy layup. Just hop on Light Link Rail and avoid the hassles of driving and parking. For more information on Light Link Rail, visit soundtransit.org. So Seattle still with a comfortable 8-point advantage despite the red-hot shooting of Sims. 8 for 8 in the third quarter for 18 points by Sims, and out of the timeout.
I got to say that entry pass brought back bad memories of Friday night at the end of the game against Connecticut.
Now remember, Seattle was in Connecticut with a comfortable lead, 7 points with just 90 seconds to go, and could not secure the victory over the Sun. And now the long 2-ball by Talbot is good. And it's a 6-point lead for Seattle, an 8-0 run by the Lynx. They need a bucket desperately, and the 3-ball by Mosqueda Lewis is blocked, and it's 1-on-1 in the open floor. Talbot missing the bunny. Getting her own rebound and can't get the second one to go. Canada with the quick hands underneath, and she gets the tie-up against Collier. A good defensive stand and hustle play by the Storm defense.
Yeah, Sammy Whitcomb and Jordan Canada both racing back down court to get involved in that play. Canada forcing Talbot to, kind of hesitate at first, and then Whitcomb getting back into play to prevent her from having an easy putback there. And eventually, you make, potentially get the ball back, or at least make Minnesota work for it in the half-court offense.
The Storm led by as many as 15 points, and that lead has been shaved to 6. Minnesota with a 14-second shot clock. Finds Collier. Put on the line, and it's a 10-0 Minnesota run, and they close to within 4, as close as they have been in the second half. You can feel the nervousness in this arena. And it's a big game between these two teams fighting for playoff positioning. And that ball knocked out of bounds for another Seattle turnover.
We've seen this occasionally this season where the turnovers just seem to compound. It's one after another. And it's a case where, as well as Jordan Cannon has played, as well as they played without her, you really miss a veteran point guard like Sue Bird.
Seattle finished the first half after a Dan Hughes timeout on a good run to push the lead to 9. Can they finish here? 30 seconds to go with some kind of momentum. Because right now it is all Minnesota's, and that's a good start for the Storm. The ball tipped away and into the hands of Whitcomb. Game clock and shot clock less than a second difference. Last time it was this close was all the way back in the first quarter, 16-12. 5 to go. Zealous, ball in her hands. And she cannot hit. 0.6 left on the shot clock.
Because it's a shot clock, the game clock cannot run out. The clock doesn't continue to run after the shot clock expires, even though the ball was loose.
So Collier try to inbound the ball.
1 and 1/10 seconds is the adjustment to the clock.
So that is the way the third quarter ends, with all kinds of life shown by the Minnesota Lynx, trailing by as many as 15 points. Odyssey Sims gets red hot, 18 points in the quarter. Join the conversation, engage with the Seattle Storm on Twitter and Instagram, and like the Seattle Storm on Facebook. Get the inside scoop on Storm basketball news, promos, and contests all season long. The Storm right now in a fight. I thought they might have been able to pull ahead there. 15-point advantage, but Minnesota behind the hot hand of Sims. 18 points in the third frame, and they're right back in it. Seattle number 6 in the playoff standings. Minnesota number 7. They are a half game apart.
And the loser of this one, or the Storm, if they lose it, will fall into a tie with Phoenix because the Mercury got the victory earlier today against New York.
Natasha Howard back on the floor with 4 fouls. And when she's in the game, Seattle has outscored Minnesota by 8. They have been outscored with her on the bench by 4. Sims out to Collier. Around the horn over to Robinson. Trying to get in the lane. Russell affecting that shot. No shot clock violation. Instead, it's a foul underneath.
You worry anytime the whistle blows and Natasha Howard is in the neighborhood right now. That wasn't involved in there.
First by Beck Bentley, the transfer from Harvard to USC. The third-round draft pick has found her way as a good contributor for this Minnesota Lynx franchise. Lloyd was scoreless in the third quarter, just 2 attempts. Getting lane here, and 1. And Lloyd now in double figures with 10.
After a strong first half, she was scoreless during that third quarter, and the Storm are going to need her down the stretch here. That's a situation where they've often missed Lloyd's contributions when she was sidelined. It was really late in games, closing things out when offense grinds down in the half court.
And she pushes the lead back out to 7. Sims finding Collier on the roll, shuffling the feet. And a turnover by the Lynx.
Credit Mercedes Russell there. Her size coming over, I think, made Nafisa Collier, she saw that shadow and started to think twice about that move.
The Storm defense has forced 15 turnovers. They're the best in the league in that category. Almost losing the ball is Lloyd. And then a 3-second call underneath. Lloyd looking for Howard, who was posting up, loses the ball. Howard did not have time to exit the lane. You can see the reaction from Dan Hughes. He doesn't like that one. 16th Storm turnover. Minnesota giving it right back.
I think Sims got the timeout. She did. It was excellent defense by the Storm.
The Storm nearly caused one. Sims on the ground. I saw the officials pointing the other way, actually pointing to the Minnesota bench to say it was the timeout. In a game with all kinds of ramifications. Let's take another look. Losing her feet, going to the deck. Didn't look like she was touched. I think Sims got lucky not to be called for a travel.
Yeah, Mercedes Russell there. Again, a nice defensive play. You know, you don't see a lot of 6'6" centers who can keep up with a guard in a situation like that where they're forced into a switch. Russell's had a very nice day, I think, at both ends.
He's been having a battle, one of the best centers that's ever played the game, Sylvia Fowles. The MVP of the WNBA Finals back in 2015. But right now, she's taking a rest. Back Finley with the ball in her hands. And there's Russell on Sims, getting her 6'6" paw up in the face of Sims in the first miss of the second half. If I'm correct on Sims, she's 8 of 9 here in the second half.
And Cheryl Reeve has extended her playing time here into the fourth quarter. She hasn't rested at all in the second half. Both of these teams kind of riding their starters after halftime.
Collier, one of the Rookie of the Year candidates, coming away with her second foul on that possession. Jewel Lloyd coming off the Howard pick. She's free, but can't knock down the J. Russell fighting for the rebound, but it bounces off her knee, and Minnesota will have the ball. Tracking Robinson. That one is left short. Both officials throwing their hands in the air. They didn't see it clearly. And Roy Golbian coming from on the other side of the court to say it will remain with Minnesota.
Give you some look says it all.
I was trying to see through a lot of traffic underneath to see who touched that last. There's Clark to knock it away. What a defensive play. Getting around Sims underneath. Seattle, 7-point lead and the possession. And Golbian very decisive here coming in. A collision with Russell and Sims.
That's one of those plays where I feel like a lot of the time the post player is just automatically going to get called for the foul there.
And you see, that was a veteran attempt there by Sims. She got caught, tangled up with Russell, and then took her arm and kind of grabbed it as she was falling, trying to make it look as if she was pushed by Russell. That was an excellent call by Roy Golbian there to be looking in the right spot at the right time. And that is the 4th foul on Sims. So Howard with 4 for Seattle. And Sims and the shot clock winding down. That one off the back of the rim by Jewel, and Collier on the move. We have been stuck on 70-63 for quite a significant time here in the fourth. They say that Russell, too much contact on Collier underneath. That is the 3rd on Mercedes Russell, and Jordan Canada back on the floor. The last time we had a score was at the 9-10 mark. And just like that, Fowles escapes the pressure and underneath knocks in the jumper.
We obviously haven't heard a lot from Fowles in the second half with Honestly Sims taking over offensively. It's still such a weapon.
Canada in the lane. A lot of gray shirts around her. She kicks it to Lloyd with a beautiful floater.
That's deeper than your usual floater range, but it looks good.
13 points for Jewel. away from her to double Sims. That left Fowles underneath with a good look, but couldn't connect. This crowd trying to spur on Seattle, a 7-point lead and the ball. Less than 6 minutes to go. Clark with a crossover. We have a foul that'll take it the other direction underneath.
I think a 3-second call on Minnesota.
Make it a 3-second call underneath. And thankfully not a foul on Howard, as everybody inside the building breathes a sigh of relief. Well, it was a fun time for the kids at Seattle Children's. They're the proud sponsor of the Doppler train, a Seattle Storm tradition. Seattle Children's mission is to provide home care and cures to help every child live the healthiest and most fulfilling life possible. And how about Brianna Stewart? She can't be on the floor right now because of that Achilles injury, but having a good time with the fans and a beautiful little one there in her arms. Hanging out doing the Doppler train. And we take you back to live action. Danielle Robinson with a pocket pass down to Fowles. She can't finish. And Alicia Clark secures the board.
That's a frustrating one for Cheryl Reed. Threw up a nice play out of the timeout to get Fowles a look at the basket. Just didn't go down.
Collier switching off onto Howard now. Fowles right there, ready to bring the double team. Clark, the up and under move.
Yeah, I bet she's going to tell us after the game she practices that way.
She does. She hit the game winner earlier this season. Her footwork, remember, a former post player at Middle Tennessee State. Now she gets her hands on the ball. Trying to track down and pick up a steal, but instead there's 10 on the shot clock for Minnesota. Collier from the corner. No good, and Russell has the rebound land right in her lap. A 9-point lead, and Minnesota is going to have to make a run here starting quickly as the clock is going to keep on ticking. Seattle trying to push the lead into double figures. Canada pull-up jumper. That is really tough to stop.
A great possession for the Storm. They used the entire shot clock, but never felt rushed at the end of the clock.
A 6-0 run by the Storm pushes their lead to 11. And their defense strong on the other end. Robinson trying for the three. They needed that desperately.
Minnesota hasn't attempted many threes, just 6 all game, but has knocked down 4 of those 6.
That is 7 points now on the night for Robinson. Clark with position underneath, using her body to steal.
There are those post player skills right there.
A tough finish for the 5'10 player over Talbot. A little bit too much contact there. She raises her hand. That's just her second foul. You can see Odyssey Sims getting a little frustrated there with the contact.
I mean, I'm not going to say that's the only reason that Odyssey Sims hasn't scored in the fourth quarter, but we've seen Alicia Clark switch out on her and just make her work much harder for everything she's gotten offensively in this period.
Alicia Clark does not get nearly enough credit for how good she is defensively. On a team with 2 players that are 1 and 2 in the league in steals, there she is again, creating havoc on that end of the floor. The veteran that has become one of the best players to work her way into the Seattle Storm franchise. Top 10 player all time, and much of it is because of on that end of the floor. Russell trying to flip one over the top near the free throw line, leaves it short. 3 minutes to go, Minnesota ball. Collier. Too much muscle on the jumper. Canada with the ball, trying to work some clock with a 10-point lead. Collier putting her hand in there, trying to bat that one away, but instead sends Howard to the deck.
going to be the 15th foul in Minnesota, so free throws coming after this break.
The free throws were something that they could not get to the line late in a loss at Connecticut. They'll get their chance to do that coming out. 2:40 to go. Seattle trying to close this one out. Join us Sunday, August 25th at 4 o'clock for Storm Fit Night, presented by Kaiser Permanente. To watch your Storm take on the Indiana Fever right here on Carter Subaru Court at Alaska Airlines Arena, the campus of the University of Washington here in Seattle. And this game, so much significance. Number 6 for Seattle in this playoff positioning. Minnesota, number 7. And these are your up to minute. The latest results in, the Sparks now 15-10, Chicago 15-11, and the Mercury sit tied currently after their win today with Minnesota.
Yeah, so Minnesota would drop to 8th with a loss here. The Storm could move even in the win column with LA and Chicago with a victory today, although they have a couple more losses than those teams that have more games remaining the rest of the season.
Natasha Howard catching in her 12th and 13th points of the night with the 2 free throws, with 8 field goal attempts for Howard, but she's knocked in 5 of them. Storm defense hard to penetrate, and right there another steal by Seattle. That is their 18th turnover that they have forced in this game. Boyd on the bounce, denied the corner. Back out to Canada. And one on the shot clock. Does Clark know it? She does! Do they count it?
Are they going to immediately replay that one because we're inside the last 2 minutes?
And they will run over to the monitor to see Alicia Clark, who comes up time and time again with the unconventional shots. And she is laughing right now because I literally think her back was turned when she threw that shot up.
Did we eventually determine the game winner? She said it was not with her left. It was actually with her right. Right? Correct. I think that's what she said. This one was clearly with the left hand. No disputing that.
And Dan Hughes smartly here, no matter if the shot counts or not, getting his team aligned, giving the instructions under 2 minutes to go, and his team up by 14.
Something we should mention, by the way, Sylvia Fowles was on the bench for Minnesota coming out of that timeout. They were with Tammy Fekbalo in the middle instead. I don't know if that's Cheryl Reeves starting to concede to the fact that they're down, potentially they were down 12, potentially 14 now with a little over 2 minutes to go.
Well, one thing on the other side for Seattle is that in the back of their minds, they have to be thinking about how they let one go at Connecticut. Up by 7, 90 seconds to go, and just started throwing the ball away. Couldn't get to the free throw line and really gave one away in heartbreaking fashion against the Sun. And so a good bounce back win for them if they can secure this. A 12-point advantage now, because after reviewing the monitor, they say that Alicia Clark did not get the bucket off in time. Well, Minnesota's will need to get hot from 3. Instead, Sims gets in the lane, will stop the clock, and head to the line.
We'll take a look at this replay, but it seemed like maybe clean contact there from Mercedes Russell, but then her block actually kind of caused Sims to, stop, and therefore Alicia Clark's momentum carried her into for the shooting foul.
Clutch free throw by Sims. If you're just joining us, put 18 points on the board in the third quarter alone. And now Sims, who had 6 points at halftime, with that make, has 26 points out of the 70 for Minnesota. They trail by 10. Jordan Canada did not play at Connecticut, and they could have used the ball handling. They will put it in her hands here with 12 on the shot clock. Now gives way to Clark, spinning around the defense and cashing in the bucket.
That one's going to count.
And now 6 players figures for Seattle. All 5 starters, as well as Kalina Mosqueda-Lewis.
Great defensive sequence there for the Storm.
They don't realize with this loud crowd and the defensive pressure that there were 0 seconds remaining on the shot clock. A defensive stand by Seattle and a big one. That just might secure this victory. A 12-point lead and the ball, less than a minute to go. Fancy dribbling out front by Canada, going behind the back to elude the pressure of Robinson. But then Sims reading the pass and going all the way coast to coast and one. And she continues to tack on to her season high, now 28 with a trip to the line coming up.
And that is, I believe, the most points by a Lynx player in a game this season. That had been 27 by Nafisa Collier on opening day against Chicago. So.
Well, Sim's career high is 39, and she's not going to get that tonight. Because of what kind of player that she is.
If she does something that's gone horribly wrong.
That would mean they'd have to push it to overtime. You're right, that would be horribly wrong. And she misses the free throw, so she's at 28. Ball in the hands for Jewel Lloyd, getting back in the starting lineup in a productive game for her. 13 points and 5 boards to go along with 3 assists. But she's kicked clean by Sims, looking for 30. And that's what she gets after the pickpocket steal on Jewel and the finish.
And Cheryl Reeve just not asking her team to foul here. I mean, it is an 8-point game, but yeah, it might be worth trying to foul in such an important game for their playoff position.
They're going to let the clock run dry. Cheryl Reeves coming up to midcourt to shake hands with a guy that she used to coach with. There's mutual respect between those two, but it's a final 82-74 to Seattle Storm.